The Citizen Report is a production of New Shannon Media. All content protected under copyright. This is the Citizen Report with Jonathan Shannon.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real in-depth American. Thank you so much for joining me. It's always good to be back with you. And especially nowadays, I'm always grateful when I get to do an episode on YouTube because censorship is kicking into high gear. And to start this episode, that is what I want to really talk about. And I've already addressed censorship in a previous episode, but I want to use this opportunity to kind of build on that argument of some of the last episodes where I talk about censorship. Just a quick note, later on in this episode, I do have an important video to share a portion thereof with you that I think is very crucial. And I say that because, and again, I have to be very careful what I say, but this woman that I listened to on YouTube, she had this dream of an American Airlines jet, and she thinks that it may have something to do with the deep state. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll come back to that a little bit later in this episode. But right now, I want to go back to what I said I was going to talk about, and that is censorship. You know, when I look at my current subscriber count, I have only 37 subscribers. 37. I don't have a lot of subscribers. In the grander scheme of things, I don't even matter. And I really want you to stop and think about all the messaging, shall we say, in the mainstream media and all the things that they're saying about getting this. And I have to be exceedingly careful what words I use. You may have to watch instead of listen to get the gist of what I'm saying, because I have to use literally hand gestures to refer to what I'm talking about, to try to avoid their algorithms as best as possible. But when you think about how they're going after little people like me, the best way I know how to put it is that should tell you everything. Because when you think about it, I'm not that unusual. I try to present some of the things that I believe are really going on, and I editorialize. In other words, I speak what I believe, and I talk about it, analyze it. I go in depth with it. That's part of the slogan, in depth. But I don't consider myself unique because there's a lot of other people that are bigger, that do it better than I do. And, but a little person like me has a video pulled last week because I was critical of this. So I really want you to stop and ponder on the reality we face. And that is, they do not tolerate dissent regarding this because they want you to, get it. And again, I have to kind of walk on eggshells. And this is also another sign of how ridiculous things have become. I can't even exercise my First Amendment right as an American citizen to say what I see going on. I do not believe these things are, I just know certain things. I've heard certain things, and I'm just utterly convinced that the way it's being done and the way they are trying to strong arm us to get it is a real problem. And I really am concerned because people seem to be completely brainwashed. I just saw I'm not going to use his name because he's a friend of mine, and I'm not going to use his name. I'm going to keep it very generic, but I think it will be beneficial in the grander scheme of things, because I'm sure for someone like him to say it, you've got a lot of other people saying it too, or doing it too. I have a friend that is, and I'm being very careful what I say here, basically was talking about having this done, and he's going to go travel. And he is I don't know what to call him. He is an ordained reverend, I suppose, if that's the right word to call it. He travels, shall we say. And yet someone like him got this. And that is, I really don't even know what to say at this point, because we as Christians should be the most discerning of the entire global population. Doesn't mean we're always perfect, doesn't mean we always hit it right on the mark, because I thought, for instance, that Donald Trump would still be president right now. And here we are in this insane reality. I do believe there's a plan, though. I'll just leave it at that. But the best way I know how to put it is that we as Christians, and I'm telling myself this as much as I tell you, that we're going to have to stop letting, and I'm being very careful what I say here, because I don't want the mainstream media, or I should say, I don't want the algorithms to pick up on this as best as possible. But I really think that we as Christians need to come together and basically say, okay, if you're going to either force or strong arm regarding this, then we're going to just have our own system. We're going to barter if we have to. If we can't go into a store, we'll just end up bartering with each other. I'm not saying personally that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I so far, I can still go into a store, and I trust that you can as well, without having to have this. One grocery store in particular down in South Carolina I go to does not make me do this. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the media is trying to force us to do something to ourselves. And we're at that point now. We're really at that precipice. I am not saying it's the mark of the beast, by the way. I am not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that we're at that point now that we have a choice, and of right ought to have a choice whether or not to do this. And yet to even so much as criticize, to ask questions, or just to say outright you're not going to do it, that gets your video pulled. That's where we're at now. So if they're going after little people like me, why is that? And I know that this isn't the most articulate. I don't know if this resonates with anybody. I hope it does. But I'm really at that point now where, and I'm totally ashamed to say this, but there have been times where I've done this. But I will tell you here on record now, I will never get this. Not this one anyway. And given what I've heard, I'm quite unsure about any of them at this point. For there to be this many issues, shall we say, it certainly makes me wonder about all the rest at this point. So, anyways, my point, I'll go on to the next next topic here in just a second. But let me wrap up this portion to say that, and I'm telling myself this, that we as Christians need to be discerning. We need to not let the mainstream media, we need to not let peer pressure, we do not need to allow the government to tell us what to do. Because in 1776, and this is another thing I don't understand, that somehow it's a you know, that people don't want to learn history. They don't want to understand the system of government that we have and are supposed to have, at least. But in 1776, we the people, through the Continental Congress, if you know, I guess, we basically said said no more. I should say we said finally no more, because we had long endured tyranny by the crown. And many of us, many Americans, did not want to separate. We just wanted our grievances heard. We wanted a redress of grievances, but those grievances were not heard. They were not given heeded to, and actually, the crown just made life even worse in response to it, in retaliation. So we finally declared independence. And by the grace of God, here we are today as a country. But we're having to fight for our freedoms yet again in a much different way, because you have to understand something. We are in the middle of a war, but not a war like you have a foreign army invading the country. You have basically irregular warfare. It's an information war. It's a war of information. It's also it's infiltration from within, and it's usurpation of due process. Look what happened in, I guess I can use this word, Arizona. I'll leave it at that. You know what I'm talking about. And here we are. This is irregular warfare. And unless or until people realize this fact, I don't even know what to tell you. You know, you can pray, but this is information warfare. This is irregular warfare. And what you see in the mainstream media, they are the bullhorn of the deep state. They are trying to tell us what to do. And they're trying to make you feel bad for thinking for yourself. I mean, I believe it was Jimmy Kimmel Live on ABC. It's a complete trash of a show, I might add. But they basically used a group of certain people of a certain industry, shall we say, that basically was trying to shame people for being skeptical of this. But that's where we are at this point. And I want to say, as I wrap up this portion, I want to just say this. You do not have to feel bad. You should not feel bad for thinking for yourself. You need to think for yourself. It is your right to think for yourself. God grant us all free will. And the fact that there are some Christians, and I'm not saying this to be a hypocrite, I'm no better than anybody else, but I'm just saying, it concerns me that there are Christians that would go along with this and get this. I mean, I'm ashamed that I've ever done this. Okay? That's a whole other topic. But my point being is that I have said this on the record before, and I'll say it here tonight, here on the Citizen Report. I will never get this. Ever. The one that they're putting out there now. Not going to happen. So I think I've said everything I wanted to say on that at this point, but we as Christians need to be discerning. We need to understand that we're in this world, but we're not of this world. And if it gets to that point, we're just going to have to come together. I mean, that's another thing. We need to network. I have friends that I can depend on. Um, if all hell breaks loose, they're the first I'm going to probably call, and we'll figure it out. If they all of a sudden make it so that you can't do anything without this, you know? And I think that I'm not, and I don't say this to fearmonger, by the way. I do believe that the Patriots are in control, but I'm saying this, you should not have to do this to function in society. Should not. And it is as a Christians, we should be discerning and allow the Holy Spirit to grant us that intuition, shall I say. I mean, I'll say this, and it may seem on the surface slightly off topic, but I think you'll understand why I mention this here in a moment. But I want to say a couple of weeks ago, I don't remember, let's see, about a couple of weeks ago perhaps, I did something I didn't normally do nowadays. I had got back to the house for the night, and for some reason I thought to myself, you know, we have a pickup truck, and I have my little car, as well as another car that's our family car. But the family car was in a different part of the driveway, shall we say? So it's not even relevant to what I'm fixing to say. But for some reason, I felt this urge to put the truck out of the carport so that if rain fell that night, you know, it'd wash the pollen off. Little did I know. And I think I may have had, I don't know if I had any uneasy feeling, but I just know that hours later, a tree fell from the neighbor's property into our property. And it basically came at an angle so that it basically was right up against the carport, but portions of the tree fell through the carport itself. So I don't think it would have necessarily totaled the truck, but it would have done some pretty serious damage. So my point being is that if you trust the Holy Spirit, if you trust God to grant you that intuition, I do believe that God will lead you. Because I see that's the thing. We're not always thinking, but God still protects us. So that's my point here. When you think about all this stuff they're trying to make you do, you need to trust God to lead you. We're not perfect. So, you know, we have to trust that God's going to lead us as best, you know, it doesn't mean that we always get it. It doesn't mean that we're always going to get it right. But we trust God to lead us. We trust that God's going to have his will in our lives. And that's one other thing I'll say. They put so much crap in our food. Toxins, pesticides, you name it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm being fully transparent here. I don't do this right now. I need to do this. So I'm telling myself as I'm telling you. I listened to someone who basically said this, and I agree. We need to pray a blessing over our food because, you know, that way God will protect us from whatever's in it. And I think that the same can be said for a lot of things. But I'll tell you this, as far as this is concerned, you just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. And I'll just say this, and I went on longer than I thought I would on this particular subject, but I'll just say this in closing, that when the media is trying to force you and make you feel like you are obligated to do something, that's when you know to question exceedingly more than you might otherwise. And I'm just telling you, you do not have to feel ashamed for not doing this. And I sympathize with those that are struggling. I know that I had a friend, a childhood friend, text me with concerns about it. I later found out he had already gotten it. And he basically told me his family basically did that to keep the peace. So I'm here to say you should not feel sorry if you decide not to do that, because your life, your health, you cannot put a price on it. And I don't even know what to say to someone that's in that kind of position, that they're having to consider whether to do that just to keep peace in their family. But I will just tell you that I will, talking here on camera, I will stand with you. Figuratively speaking, I will stand with you to say you do not have to feel sorry. And you should feel sorry for them. You should pity them that they refuse to think for themselves. And hopefully God will enlighten them. They'll get a clue. But if they're not willing, it's like the saying goes, you can bring a horse to the creek, but you can't make him drink. I think it's something like that. And you got to look out for yourself. It's what I'm trying to say. You cannot let the mainstream media make decisions for you. I cannot get into the why I say these things. I cannot tell you about the specifics regarding that. I can't do that on YouTube, because I had a video pulled last week. They threatened me if I did it again that I would be suspended for a week, something to that effect. So you can read in between the lines and see what I'm getting at with this. So, all right, switching gears now. I was watching this video last night of Amanda Grace. If you aren't subscribed to her, I would suggest you go do so. Let me check the name of the YouTube channel. It's called Ark of Grace Ministries on YouTube. Highly recommend her channel. Very good. And she talks about in this video, she did this live stream about having a dream. Now, I'm going to let her explain it because I'm going to play the video, but I'm going to summarize it first by saying, as best as I can remember it anyway, that this plane, she says God put her into a deep sleep, and an American Airlines jet, passenger jet, and she saw the word, the uniqueness of it, so she knew it was an American Airlines passenger jet. It was coming over, I think she said, a hedge of trees, ascending into the air. She also sees a missile. And she, according to what she said, if I'm remembering this correctly, I'll let you hear it here in a moment. It was a missile that she believes was not an American missile. So it was some type of foreign missile. As the plane is climbing, the missile shoots up. And if I remember correctly, it wasn't even fire coming out behind it. It was just a missile going up towards this plane. But before it hits the plane or does something, she wakes up. So she's going to make the argument of what she thinks could be going on, why God, she's claiming this is from God. So, and she tells people to pray about this. We have to discern, obviously. But when I heard this, it resonated with me, if that makes any sense, because we know the deep state's panicking like there's no tomorrow. We know that they are absolutely trying to stop the stuff, the certain forensic stuff that's taking place in Arizona. And because that's a domino effect. That could create a domino effect, I should say. And makes you wonder, are they planning something as a plan B? Or could this also be something, because I don't know if she mentioned 9/11. I don't know. We just don't know right now what the symbolism is, but she's calling on people to pray about this. So I want to share this with you. And maybe let me know what you think, because I'm curious to know what my audience thinks about this. And let's without further ado, play this. So let me share my screen. And it's gonna be a few minutes that I play, but I think you'll enjoy listening to this. I think you'll be intrigued by this, because it's a very, very interesting symbolism. Very interesting symbolism in regarding this dream. So let me play this for you, and then I'll continue after I stop playing this portion.
Now, let's talk about this American Airlines dream, because this dream on the surface seems simple. It's not simple. This goes very deep, and we're going to touch on some parts of it tonight. And so basically, the American Airlines dream, what happened was, when I was sick, there was one night I was really having a bit of a hard time, and the Lord put me into a deep sleep. And when I went into this deep sleep, the next thing I know is that I'm standing on an undisclosed launch pad site with my big brother Dave, and we're facing each other, and he's wearing all gray, his glory sweats and a hat. Okay. To my right is an enormous hedge of trees. Okay. The sky was unusually blue. Next thing I know, comes over the hedge of trees, okay, so from my right, an American Airlines Boeing 747, like the big ones, the huge commercial liners that are passenger liners. And it was American Airlines, because I could see the writing on the side, and it was American Airlines plane. They have a very distinct look. So this plane is beginning to make its ascent into the air. And what happens is, as the plane is making its ascent, appears hovering in front of me and Dave, above our heads, is like a 30-foot tall, enormous green missile. Dark green. No distinct markings from a country. It definitely wasn't an American missile, that I can tell you. But no other distinct markings that would give credence to one country over another. And so this missile is hovering there. And when the American Airlines plane goes to make its ascent, this missile, excuse me, begins to climb at a 90-degree angle after this plane. And when it starts to make its climb, now keep in mind, normally when missiles take off, they're like rockets, and there is some fire that comes out the bottom of them. There was no fire coming out the bottom of this missile. But it begins to make a 90-degree climb after this plane. And I woke up. Okay? Now, I immediately sent this to John Redenbow, because he's got a gift when it comes to interpreting dreams from the Lord. He has a legitimate gift. So for those of you that saw a window into the supernatural, you'll know that John Redenbow said publicly, this dream is so important that every leader in the country needs to be paying attention to this dream right now. It is that crucial and that important. Now, he seemed to believe that perhaps the Green New Deal was involved in this dream. Okay? The Green New Deal is a train wreck, basically. And it's a sabotage is what it is. And so He seemed to believe the Green New Deal was involved and that there were no distinct markings on the missile because there were multiple countries involved in launching that missile. So what happens is I get on the phone with Barbara, my godmother, who mentored me, about this dream because she's even taken notice now of this dream. And so what we begin to discuss is that flight, I think it was 91, the flight that went down on 9/11, the American Airlines flight that went down in Pennsylvania, that this dream has to do with 9/11, with that flight, and with another one being planned. And that this is a warning from the Lord to start praying now for the attack to be exposed and thwarted. Because make no mistakes, this is a planned, coordinated attack. Okay? This missile was hovering, waiting for this plane. And so we have to understand there are many layers to this dream. I'm still praying about it because I believe there's even more. There's even more. Oh, it's Flight 93? Okay, it was Flight 93. Thank you, Holly. I was close. I was 2 off. Flight 93 was the flight that went down in Pennsylvania. Okay, I would watch the area of Pennsylvania where that flight went down because there's something to this, that it's an American Airlines plane in this dream. Of all, companies, of all airlines that the Lord could have depicted in this dream, it was American Airlines. Now, I believe it's going to come out that American Airlines was complicit in more ways than one, not only back with 9/11, but now. American Airlines is complicit in this whole nonsense going on in the country. Okay? So there's a reason American Airlines is being presented here. But we have to remember that is a passenger liner. We need to pray because that means there's innocent passengers on that plane. And we don't want to see another 9/11 happen because there's a lot that's going to come out about 9/11 that's going to shock the public, going to shock them. And we need to pray that that missile misses. Whatever this missile represents, it could be a real missile that's launched because we were on a launch site. We were in an undisclosed location on a launch site near an airport because obviously the plane had just taken off. Thank you, Wally. Did you just hear when I said bomb? He made the bomb drop. Did you hear that? Did anybody hear that? Wally made that woo. Wally just did that when he heard me say bomb. So he's a smart cookie, this bird. I'll have him back on soon. We're going to do a mail room with Wally and Chet. We have so many beautiful things that people have sent us. So we're going to do mail room with Wally and Chet, and we're going to have them on. So, but see, people heard it. Yep. So thank you, Wally, for providing some humor in the middle of all of this. Okay. So this bomb. We were obviously near an airport, okay, because the plane had just taken off. It was just clearing, like barely cleared these trees. So it was just beginning its climb into the air. That's when the missile is hovering, waiting for this particular plane. Now, there was no number on the plane for me to distinguish a flight number, okay? But it was definitely an American Airlines passenger plane, the larger ones that they use, which I think is a Boeing 747, if I'm not mistaken. So the fact the Lord is giving the warning ahead of time, okay, is his mercy because he's a merciful God. But we have to pray into this and pray that it is exposed and thwarted. Whatever is being planned and however American Airlines is involved. Now, some part of this could be what's going to come out about Flight 93 and part of 9/11, okay? could have to do with this. Now, so that's part of it. But the other part is a warning for the near future. It's a warning that there is something being set up that is a similar scenario to 9/11. There is something being set up by the wicked and being put in place in case their plan fails or begins to completely tank and go downhill. They can go to this. This is what needs to be disrupted, and we need to pray. Thank you, Wally, again with the bomb drop. This is what we need to pray against, because this is what they want to do, which is try to set the country back even worse when their plans are failing.
Okay, I think I'll stop it there. I encourage everyone to please go watch that broadcast in full. Ark of Grace Ministries YouTube channel. Ark of Grace Ministries. It's on YouTube. Okay, she did that broadcast on May 4th. Okay, and interestingly enough, in case you didn't pick up on it, she has a bird. And the bird during her broadcast made the sound like a bomb incoming or something. So we need to pray about that, because obviously, again, we need to discern. We need, pray about it. But it seems that God is basically saying that there's something coming that the deep state's going to try to do when, not if, when this stuff, when the truth is revealed regarding what happened in Arizona, and when all that starts to go south for them, the deep state, do they have a plan B as a distraction? It does seem plausible. So I felt that was important to share on my broadcast. And I encourage everyone, I give full video credit to her on that portion I shared. Please go watch Amanda Grace. I highly recommend her. And I think that there's going to be certain information coming out soon, very soon. And I can only imagine that censorship is going to kick into even more high gear. You think it's bad now, you wait. When things start going south, you just watch. They're going to really kick it up big time. Now, in closing, I want to just say, and I have to be very careful what I say, but basically, I saw a newspaper from the Charlotte Observer. I went into a Quick Trip, and I was getting something, and I noticed the little thing that they have where they hold the newspaper. There was a headline on the front page that read something that had something to do with basically those that don't want to get this are going to cause a delay in lifting restrictions. And I wish I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, by the way, but I don't always remember things right on cue. But basically, you have to understand there are those that want to, what's the word I can use? Control. I really don't think I can push it beyond that point, but you really need to understand that this is an information warfare, and the deep state's panicking, and we have to stand our ground. We're not perfect, but we have to stand our ground, and we have to say, no, I'm an American citizen. I'm made in the image of God. You're not going to make me do that. It's bad enough to do this. And I'm ashamed to say I've done it. I've done this. Okay. But this is irreversible, at least as far as we know right now. I am, by the way, I am not in any way saying this is the mark of the beast. That's not what I'm saying. And we have to be careful to not let legalism creep into all this, because that's completely counterintuitive. Legalism gets you nowhere. Legalism is to be shunned. But this stuff is, it's bad, is all I can say. So I can't really push it beyond that point because I'm planning to upload this to YouTube, I hope. So on that note, I just want to briefly tell you that I'm continuing to work on some changes here on the Citizen Report. I'm very excited that there's going to be a lot of good changes coming down the pike here on the Citizen Report. I have a Christian in Israel that is taping. I think she, as of last check, has taped already most of the voiceovers for the Citizen Report. So there's going to be some new intros coming down the road. So there's going to be some really neat stuff that's coming. So I cannot wait to share it with you. I cannot wait to get these updates implemented. I haven't heard the voiceovers yet, but I'm sure it's going to be really good. I'm sure it's going to be really good, and I'm very excited. I'm very grateful for the people that God has brought into my life to bless me on a personal level, and also, it's a blessing for what I'm doing here on this show. So on that note, I just want to remind you that you can find the Citizen Report on stinger.live. You can find my YouTube channel, my full name, Jonathan Ryan Shannon. I'm personally on Gab. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can go to the Citizen Report website, citizenreport.tv or thecitizenreport.weebly.com. At the end of the show, you'll see a full screen slate with all that, with the 2 web links and the stinger.live web link. So stay tuned for that. God bless each and every one of you. And let me know how I do on the show. If you have any suggestions, any questions, I'm all ears for it. So I hope to see you right back here again next time with all the censorship. I just never know if, it's never a guarantee that I'll be able to when I return. So, but God bless each and every one of you, and be sure to bookmark those web links so you'll never lose contact with the Citizen Report, because I want to try to keep you informed as best as possible. So on that note, God bless each and every one of you, and I'll see you right back here again next time. Have a good night, everyone.